Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Aaron, can you hear me back there? If you can you get the PowerPoint PC so I can get the clicker to work? Cool, we're working.
I have a hearing where it's really. Well, I know someone that lives in the neighborhood. I moved away. There? I guess you never see one there. There, that's right, exactly. Sure.
Hi, how you doing, Nathan? I'm coming. Wayne.
Morning.
Hello there, humanitarian person.
Hopefully we won't eat all that. They revised the requirements in January. Correct. And the reason why is Larry, after 33 years,
Recording in progress. travel license good. I like to be in the room. It's a horrible.
Well, I take it yeah, I mean, I'll probably stay here. I assume I'm gonna take this.
Recording in progress.
Yep, I'm here. Is that good with you? Is that good? I don't know. Maybe that must mean I'm doing all right. Concerned about
Yeah, I believe there's a couple commissioners online. Chris and Clayton, you need a few more minutes? Okay. We're gonna start a little delayed today. Sorry about that. just so people know, we have 2 commissioners online, so we have a quorum. We have 3 here and 2 online. Is all we're expecting today? Okay. While we're waiting, I've started something. If you're here in the public and you would like to speak on an item today, will you just let me know by raising your hand if you're planning to be a public speaker today at all, for any of the items? Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah. I do. Let me know when you guys are ready. Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, let's go ahead and begin with a roll call. Here.
Richard Johnson is absent. Anthony DiMattei, absent. Daniel Woodward.
Here, present.
Anders Hagee.
Here.
Robin Dahlgren.
Here.
And Bridget Powers. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone to today's Planning Commission, November 17th. It is open to in-person and may also be observed online through Placer County website. In an effort to encourage the public to engage in the process, our public comment for this meeting will be offered in person and remotely. If you would like to make public comment virtually, please raise your hand with the hand icon at the bottom of the page. If you're calling in, please press *9 to raise your hand. Please be prepared to speak at the time I open public comment for the specific item you would like to address, which may include items not on our agenda, a consent item, or a timed item. Each commenter will be allowed 3 minutes. Thank you for your patience as we work to preserve the safety and health of all meeting participants and ensure that each citizen who wishes to comment has the opportunity to do so. Please be advised that today's meeting is being recorded. I'll go ahead and invite Chris, the interim planning director, to offer the director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Schmidt with the Planning Services Division. A couple items of interest at upcoming board meetings. November 29th, the Planning Services Division will be bringing forward an item to the board seeking authorization to begin the long process of updating the county general plan. On December 6th, the Regional University Specific Plan Phase 1A, or Phase 1, that you recommended approval on October 27th will be heard by the board. And also staff will be bringing forward some amendments or an update on changes proposed to our code compliance process. Upcoming planning commission meetings, December 8th, we have 3 projects. That'll be a Tahoe meeting. It includes amendments to the Tahoe Basin Area Plan. We also are on today's agenda asking for a special meeting on December 15th. We do have a draft EIR hearing on a winery in the Penryn area. And we'll also be providing an overview of our development process to the planning commissioners. This is just an informational item. You'll then be on a well-deserved break over the Christmas holidays. We've returned on January 12th with another admin draft EIR hearing for a large project in the Dry Creek area. 2 significant promotions to announce. A couple weeks ago, Stacy Wider in our Tahoe office was promoted to principal planner. She'll be overseeing Tahoe planning staff in that office. And down here at Cedra, Michelle Kingsbury has been promoted to Cedra Deputy Director. She's been an important asset to the planning team and all of Cedra. She'll be overseeing several Cedra teams and continue to play an important role in our larger projects, specifically specific plans. And the item before you today is the Placer Commerce Center, and she's been instrumental in bringing that to hearing. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have one. Okay. Chris, you said on the 8th, something is, that code compliance is going to the Board of Supervisors, is that right?
December 6th.
December 6th? What is that exactly?
It is a check-in with the board to talk about proposed process improvements and also expansion of staff and also changing the way and the timeline for ensuring compliance with county codes. So don't expect any board action then. It's just here's
Okay,
the direction we're heading and looking for feedback from the board members.
okay.
December 15th, that additional meeting, I heard that it might happen in Tahoe or here. Is it going to be here?
It will be here.
Okay. Anyone, commissioners online, any questions for Chris? Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and open up public comment for items that are not on our agenda. Anyone here in the public wish to address any items that are not on our agenda?
Hi, Mike Carabedian, Placer County Tomorrow. Because it was on your agenda to have the planning report, but you didn't ask for public comment on it, I suggest you might think about that. So last night, I learned about the Development Review Committee and how it works. At least I found that they meet the day before you do. 24 hours before you meet now, they have the same agenda. At least they had the planning, the general plan, the change for the specific plan and so forth that you have for the truck and warehouse, et cetera, facility. So well, be that as it may, it's pretty quick and zippy. I also noticed that it says who was on the DRC, and it's an engineer, at least from what I could find out, somebody from facility services and someone from, they weren't planners as near as I can tell. So you're not getting a recommendation, at least from DRC, from planners. So I think historians will be looking to you as the responsible parties, at least when they'll look at your actions and your agendas. So the question of not having, it's very unclear, even when you look at reports, when you get the DRC recommendation, if the planning staff is actually recommending it too. They say that the DRC is recommending. Well, is the planning staff recommending it too or not? And I also want to comment about the last meeting, on the SMUD item, where I was the only speaker and you cut me off after 3 minutes, and maybe you had a long agenda or whatever. You probably had your good reasons, but I think that's a pitiful way to handle the public on an item, especially someone, my first job out of law school was I was a a graduate legal assistant to the North Coast Commission for 9 months, and that exposed me to all kinds of planning and all the different agencies. I was their coordinator to state and federal agencies, county agencies. So that was really a learning period about planning, and since then I've done a lot of other work, and so I'm pretty well, fairly, more involved in the experience than the average person. And which also I think, has to do with your chopping off the public time like that. So just note it, want to note that. Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate, do you want to respond to the DRC clarification?
Sure, yeah, happy to do so. So the Development Review Committee, its makeup is actually a group of internal staff members. That group is determined at the discretion of the Seizure Director, but normally it does include somebody from the Seizure Department, the Planning Department as well as somebody from the Department of Public Works and then from the Division, Department of Public Works and also the Division of Environmental Health. So there normally is a planner there. As with all items that come before your commission, those are reviewed by the Planning Department, and usually planning staff is the one that provides the recommendation. So there is a review by planning staff before items come before the Planning Commission.
And I would add a planner chairs that committee at those meetings.
Okay. Okay, good, thanks. And the feedback is received. The public is really important. I take it very seriously and give everyone the same amount of time. So, all right. Continuing on to consent agenda items. Would any commissioners like to pull a consent agenda? Okay, anyone from the public? Consent items addressed. Yeah.
Could you explain what the consent agenda is on this agenda? I can't tell. Thank you.
Yeah. Right now, it's just the addition of a meeting.
Yeah, so the consent item is to amend the normal Planning Commission schedule to add December 15th as a additional meeting date.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent item.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
I have a first from Commissioner Hagee, a second from Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our first timed item, Robinson Newcastle Gravel Pit Conditional Use Permit Modification and Reclamation Plan Amendment. Members of the public may now raise their hands, press star 9 if you're calling in to begin queuing in for public comment on this item, which will not begin until the item presentation is complete. Patrick Dobbs will be presenting on this item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Patrick Dobbs, Planning Services Division. The item before you is a request to approve the Robinson Newcastle Gravel Pit Conditional Use Permit Modification and Reclamation Plan Amendment to expand the on-site aggregate mining area by 4.2 acres and extend the operational life of the mine for an additional 20 years until 2042. The Robinson Newcastle Gravel Pit is located on the north side of Interstate 80 at 9601 Ophir Road. This is about 200 yards west of the intersection of Ophir Road and Lozanos Road in the Newcastle area. The property is split zoned. The rear of the property is zoned farm, combining mineral reserve, combining special purpose. The frontage is zoned highway services, which is one of our commercial districts, combining mineral reserve, combining special purpose, combining design review. And I think while you're quite familiar with zoning districts like farm and highway services, I will just mention the mineral reserve combining district. As the name indicates, these are areas that identify lands that contain valuable mineral resources. And the special purpose combining district is another one you don't see very often. These are for areas like mineral extraction, airports, sewage treatment plants. These are areas that the county recognizes as important and areas in proximity to these need to be given special attention, and compatibility is of particular importance. This is an aerial view of the aggregate mine. Access to the mine site is off of Ophir Road. The site is approximately 19.5 acres, with about 10 acres of it having been actively mined. The mining operations have been ongoing for the past 55 years. This goes back to 1967. And to date, the operations have removed, and that figure is actually incorrect, and it's addressed in the errata for the project, but it's 1,154,277 cubic yards of material over the lifetime of the mine. These are just a few existing photos on site. While the site entrance is moderately visible from Interstate 80, all of the earthwork and all of the other mining operations and equipment are shielded from public view. This is all kind of done with a berm wrapped around the area. But you can see some of the different types of excavators. There's screening and sorting equipment and various stockpiles of material on the pit floor. So the proposed project is a request from the mine operators, Paul and Jan Ferreira, for a conditional use permit modification and reclamation plan amendment. Again, as I mentioned, this would extend the operational life of the mine for an additional 20 years. This involves this expansion area on site of 4.2 acres that would be extracted during that lifetime. This would all be done in approximately 4-year phases. So there's 5 4-year phases, and the tree removal would occur and grading would occur during that phase schedule. And so the operator anticipates about 210,000 additional cubic yards of material over the next 20 years, so roughly 10,000 cubic yards a year. With this topographic map, it makes it easier to see this hill or knoll on the east side of the property. That is the 4.2 acre expansion area. That is the hill that will be mined over 20 years and excavated down to the level of the existing pit floor. So that pit floor is currently about 1,000 feet above sea level. The top of this hill or knoll is just under 1,100 feet. So it's approximately a 100-foot hill that would come down over a 20-year period. We did complete a mitigated negative declaration for the project. It was circulated in the fall of 2021. There were potential environmental impacts to air quality, biological resources, tribal and cultural resources. With the incorporation of the mitigation measures, the project is not expected to cause any significant adverse environmental effects. As I mentioned, there was an errata that we did. This was just some technical corrections in terms of the expiration date for the year and the change in the cubic volume of material that had been historically excavated. Regarding the discussion of issues, this mine is really a value to our local economy and to our area. As I said, it's been operating for over 50 years, so it's really predisposed to this mining use. If the material didn't come from here, it would come from elsewhere, so there are environmental benefits to having this local. Bullet number 2 there regarding community plan consistency and neighborhood compatibility. This is within the Ophir General Plan. The site is identified as the Ophir Industrial Park. Adjacent lands are owned by the mine operator. This is going to have the same historical intensity as it has in the past. And so we believe that this continued use of this mine is appropriate at this site and will maintain its compatibility with the surrounding area. When we circulated the mitigated negative declaration, we received comments from PG&E. There's something called the South Canal Tunnel. This is part of their hydroelectric system that is located 140 feet below the existing pit floor. So we worked with them to make some updates to the documents to show where the alignment of that tunnel is in relationship to the grading. We had to update, or we had to demonstrate what datum was being used for elevation, but with some condition added regarding no explosives or blasting, PG&E confirmed that they were satisfied that their issues had been addressed. We also received a comment letter from Caltrans that brought up issues regarding encroachment and hydrology. We provided additional drainage reports, and they confirmed that they had no concerns about silt or sediment leaving the site, and so that the drainage was going to, as it related to the expansion area, would stay on site. But the encroachment issue never really fully got resolved. We met with Caltrans. They seemed to indicate they didn't think an encroachment permit would be necessary. I mean, we believe that the encroachment where they enter and exit the site is in a county portion of the roadway, but where their right-of-way ends is somewhat unclear. But we did put in a catch-all sort of condition that says, you know, if there is work being done within the state highway right-of-way, that they'll need an encroachment permit. And so those were the comments from Caltrans. So the county code operates in conjunction with the California Surface Mining and Reclamation Act of 1975, SMARA. So this requires coordination with the Division of Mines and Reclamation regarding the reclamation plan. This is to ensure that the site will be reclaimed to a setting that is compatible with the adjacent lands and a use that is appropriate for the area. And so there was some back and forth with the Division of Mines and Reclamation, but ultimately they did determine that the reclamation plan amendment was complete. It did result in the addition of a new section, this section 6.3.1 regarding revegetation of disturbed lands success criteria. But again, working with the Division of Mine and Reclamation, they have determined that the reclamation plan amendment is complete. Potential reclaimed land uses include possibly home sites or farmland or other industrial uses which are near the site. We brought the project to the Newcastle Ophir MAC back in September 16th of 2021 and presented and responded to questions from the MAC and the public. Several of the MAC members expressed that they had had positive experiences with the mine operators over the years. There was some question about how the views of the site would change, and I described those incremental changes in relationship to the phasing. But the Newcastle Ophir MAC did unanimously recommend the Planning Commission approve the expansion and the extension. And so, you know, why did it take so long from the MAC to the Planning Commission? And part of that is my fault. This reclamation plan, I learned, really comes as a package with a conditional use permit modification. So I had originally intended to update that reclamation plan as it related to the expansion area and condition that. It was brought to my attention that needed to be complete to bring it before you, and so that's what we've been working on this past year. And as I mentioned, the coordination with Division of Mine and Reclamation. And so the Development Review Committee recommends the Planning Commission approve the project and take the following 3 actions: adopt the mitigated negative declaration and errata for the Robinson Mine conditional use permit modification and mitigation monitoring and reporting program prepared pursuant to CEQA in accordance with the findings in the staff report. It's attachment C. Approve the conditional use permit modification to expand the existing approved mining area by an additional 4.2 acres in the eastern portion of the site and extend the Robinson Newcastle gravel pit mining operation until January 2042, supported by the findings in the staff report and subject to the recommended conditions of approval in attachment B. And the third and final action is to approve the reclamation plan amendment, which is included in attachment D, in accordance with Placer County Code section 1756-270, supported by the findings in the staff report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can answer your questions.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Questions for Patrick, staff? Online?
No.
Okay,
I do have one.
okay. You have one?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Patrick, for the record, I have corresponded with Patrick on this issue, so this question won't be a particular surprise to him, but what's a little unclear to me is how we can, as a government body, certify a mitigated negative declaration when we have a state agency, in this case Caltrans, that basically says we went through the drainage report and that's okay, but then determined that the issuance of a Caltrans encroachment permit is required because the project is located within the Caltrans right-of-way. The encroachment permit requires applicant to provide Caltrans with necessary documents, including but not limited to environmental, cultural resources, traffic operations, and hydraulics, and mitigate the effects on state highway right-of-way. So all of that really discusses environmental issues, right? And that is not a resolved issue. And yet, we are being asked today to certify a mitigated negative declaration when another state agency has a problem with, or may have a problem with, what appear to be environmental issues associated with this project. So can you clarify how that works?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I would say, we are the lead agency in this review, and so our environmental review covered the entirety of the project. We do our best to share information, to work with other agencies, but they are indeed separate agencies, and we cannot dictate their process. And so, in this case, we weren't able to get resolution on the encroachment issue, and so the intention was to include that condition as it relates, if there is something that Caltrans feels would warrant that encroachment. Maybe it's not just the points of ingress and egress, maybe it has to do with truck haul routes and such, but it is a separate entity, it is a separate process. We did our best to work with them, but and we included this condition that addressed the intent of their concerns and comments that they raised.
Okay.
Can I also just touch on that real quickly? So as Patrick had mentioned, the county reviews the use permit and the project that's identified within the use permit, and then would also evaluate the environmental impacts that would be related to that use permit. And the county makes a decision based on that environmental document, whether the county thinks that's sufficient in order to provide the use permit. Caltrans goes through a similar process for their encroachment permits. They would do their own separate environmental review. So the letter that Caltrans provided indicates that there may be concerns. When I read the letter, I didn't see that an encroachment permit would be required for this project, but they do highlight that one may be needed. And some of that depends on whether work is going to occur within the Caltrans right-of-way or not. So they would go through their own analysis, and because they are a separate entity, they're entitled to make their own decision environmentally whether or not further analysis is needed, whether the county's analysis is sufficient or not. And if Caltrans views that the county's analysis needs more work, they can provide their own conditions to that encroachment permit, just like the county would do as reviewing its use permit. So they are two separate entities that are both reviewing this from their own perspectives and are entitled to have their own positions on it. When I read the letter, and specifically the conditions of approval, staff has gone through and conditioned our conditional use permit to say, look, if Caltrans needs an encroachment permit, one of the conditions on the county side is that that the applicant must go through that process and comply with everything that Caltrans requires to be in compliance with the county's conditional use permit as well. So we have kind of cross-checked it to make sure that not only do they have to comply with Caltrans, but that is a condition of the county's one. Should Caltrans require an encroachment permit is required. And as I noted, staff can correct me if I'm wrong. There's no guarantee that an encroachment permit is needed here, but certainly that is up to Caltrans' discretion and authority.
Okay, so that was good. Both explanations were good. So how does this work, though? I mean, so we approve this, operations begin. Caltrans.
When the applicant comes in for their first phase of grading, we'll ask them for the encroachment permit or an email or something that says they don't need it.
Okay. Okay. Another question then on process. So we work through this mitigated negative declaration process, which is extensive by the staff. It looks very thorough. Is there a legal review of this before it comes to us as we make this decision, or is the legal process that exists just done here?
Sure. So any items that come before your commission are reviewed by council's office, as the same with anything that goes to the board, they're reviewed. Now, in terms of the depth of that review, I would say that when it comes to mitigated negative declarations, most of that preliminary work is done at a staff level without council review, unless a significant issue comes up. And council's office does work with the environmental department to make sure that kind of if there are issues, they're addressed. But so I would say that yes, everything that comes before your commission or before the board or before a hearing body is reviewed by council. But in the initial drafting, specifically for mitigated negative declarations, probably council isn't involved unless a specific issue has been highlighted or concern has been raised.
Okay. And if Caltrans decides that they want a permit, that's worked between county staff, the applicant, and Caltrans, and no additional requirement to come here. Is that true?
I might look to my colleague Eric in the back in the engineering. I think it's between the applicant and Caltrans, and they just need to prove it up to us that that has been completed.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. I'd like to invite Jan Ferreira, the applicant, if you'd like to add any additional comments or have a presentation.
Hi, as stated, my name is Jan Ferreira. I'm representing the owners of Robinson Sand and Gravel, Paul and Patrick Ferreira. We've been on a long journey on this with a few turns in the middle. We appreciate the county staff and their help and work on this project. We also wanted to thank the Planning Commission for their special session for us to complete this process and to be able to move forward. We have nothing to add. It's been a good presentation, and the county's done good work with us to put everything in place. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to open up for public comment. Anyone from the public here in person? Wayne?
Morning, Chairman Herzog, Commission members. Feels a little strange to be out here instead of up there, but I wanted to pass on to you my thoughts about this request and also about the organization. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm doing this because I believe it's a worthy request. The Robinson Sand and Gravel operation has been a very valued member of our community for decades. They have provided, I believe, a vital aggregate materials to not only the construction industry, but also the many DIY projects that residents in the community have done each year. So I think this request, from my opinion, actually is I think in a very ideal location because there isn't a residential area nearby. It's primarily commercial. I think the traffic issue it's pretty minor. I think it's actually ideally located because it's very near traffic roadways, so that there isn't much that they have to do to access. And I think if you did go there, you would find that there's not that much truck activity going out of there. It's not like it's going to impede any of the traffic in that area. So I think, again, it's ideally located. To my knowledge, as Patrick said, it's been operating for over 50 years, and they have not had any complaints. They fit well into the community, which really isn't a surprise to me because that really speaks to the character and integrity of the company. They have really do what's right. That's kind of their attitude. What's right is right, and the way they do business every day. And I just want to share just a moment of something that they do very quietly in the community. They contribute a lot to various needs in the community. One example would be right here, where the homeless shelter in the DeWitt needed a kitchen facility because they didn't have one to feed their 100 residents there. And so the community got together and put together a mobile kitchen for them. And the Robinsons stepped up and provided free all of the aggregate material and the asphalt work. So that, again, speaks to their character and their community and their care for our community. I would strongly encourage you to support this. This is important. This request is important to this community. So thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, can you state your name for the records?
Sorry, Wayne Nader.
Thank you.
Morning, all. My name is Sean DeGuara. I reside at 330 Lozanos Avenue, which is right next to the address in the sound study, 284 Lozanos Road. And I'm ignorant there on section 8-1 if any changes can be made to this at this current point in time. I spent my last 15 years of my career in the mining business and construction and heavy equipment. And living across the street from there, some concern of mine and those with the neighbors who also couldn't make it today because of health issues was that they were going to limit the hours of operation from 7 to 7, May through September. And that was just something that we saw as an issue. We didn't know if any changes could be made to allow verbiage in there to exclude Saturdays and Sundays from operation, and then also to adopt winter hours throughout the entire life of the contract, which would be 7 to 5 instead of 7 to 7. Try to mitigate any equipment noise in addition to the already existing recorded noises in the area. That being said, thank you for your opportunity.
Thanks, Sean. Anyone else here in the audience? Anyone online? Oh, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Please.
Thank you. No comment on this, just a couple questions. This has I'm not familiar with the project or the application. Is there a length of time on this permit, and is there a full review at some point again in the future? And is there an expected change in the material transportation traffic?
Okay. I see a hand online too. I don't know.
We have no public comments online.
Okay. All right, Patrick, I'd like to invite you back up to maybe address some of the questions.
Yes, thank you. The comment regarding the hours of operation, this is on page 15 of your packet. This is an existing condition, and it says 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. May through September, and 7 to 5 October through April. They're correct. It doesn't specify work on the weekends, and so I'd probably want to check, discuss that with the applicant and such in terms of how that fits in with their business. So I don't know if we want to table that for a moment or if someone else wants to add to that. And then as far as Mr. Garabedian's questions, I mean, the time frame, it is 20 years till January 2042. The expected, excavated volume material and associated trucking is consistent with, if not slightly less than it has been historically. So this is a continuation of the existing intensity. I think that covered the questions I had.
Jan, you want to come up and address the weekend hours or the intent behind that?
As she's walking up, I'll just note, this condition is one that was contained in the existing use permit and is something that the business has, been in compliance with up until this point. It's not being sought to be modified today.
Okay.
That's what I was going to add, is that it is in our existing permit and has been for the hours of operation. It has not clarified weekends. Under most normal circumstances, we do not operate on weekends, Saturday and Sunday. Probably one of the main things we would want to keep the open availability was under emergency needs or services needed from there in an emergency situation. We haven't had it. We had one washout at one point due to Mother Nature that we were in there on a weekend. Otherwise, we don't usually operate on the weekends.
Okay, thank you. And just to be clear, I want to make sure I close public comment. And we can bring it to the commission for more questions for staff or the applicant, or begin our discussion and deliberation. Online commissioners, any questions? Or
Just a question of the applicant. Is it an issue to reduce the summertime hours till 5 p.m.?
My name's Paul Ferreira. I'm the landowner and the operator down there on the quarry. I guess what it is that sometimes we go in there when our employees, like, you know, the other quarries are closed, and so our truck will come in a little bit later to get some material. It's not real often. Sometimes I go down there personally and run a tractor after hours when we're done in the office here. It's kind of my relaxation, and it kind of helps get material brought up for the next day for the screening operation. It's not that we run there very often on weekends or during the after the 5 o'clock. It probably would not be an issue to not work on the weekends or to not work as late, but I mean, it is something that we could work around if it is a big issue. I don't know if it's the noise of the tractors that's bothering the neighbors. The screening plant almost never runs during any of those hours. It's just pushing material up to prepare for the next day. We could change our backup beepers. If it's backup beepers, I know some people change them to a swoosh sound, which we've done to our other yard. But it is something that we could work with. We don't want to make enemies with our neighbors. We've been there a long time. We plan on staying there for a while. We have purchased all the land around the quarry, so every bit of the there's actually 92 acres down there that I own. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Is this the first that you've heard of these concerns, or have you had concerns brought up in the past that, you know, that you've worked around or with the neighbors on?
This is the first I've heard of it. There was a time that we had years ago that there was a levee break somewheres down, and we had a lot of material that went out at night. And there was, in our last condition, there was a condition in there of if you needed to work at a certain time for that, it was not necessarily a planning commission, but it was a staff approval for a time frame of emergency type work. You know, if somebody needed material during a certain time period, you know,
So generally speaking, though, your operations are 7 to 5.
Yeah.
But that
Actually,
window provides you.
Actually, there's the operator down there from 7 to 3. Typically, the main operator that runs the quarry.
Okay.
But I do slip in there and do a little pushing and some prepping. So does my son.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
A question for Pat, Chairman. Is that condition still in there to allow emergency use? Because I'm aware of other locations where that gravel would absolutely be essential during an emergency use. So definitely would like to see that it can operate during those kinds of times.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm looking for it, and I know my colleagues are at the moment too. I'm not seeing it. No. And you know, obviously this is a track change version of the conditions that we're showing you, so it would have either been shown as deleted but I'm not seeing it right now.
if it's the pleasure of the commission, we can add that language to the hours of operation condition.
That would be appreciated.
I don't see it
again-
as a condition being removed, but certainly we can add it to that condition for hours of operation for emergency purposes that they may be allowed to operate upon approval by staff, something along those lines, if there's an interest in the commission.
I mean, sorry, maybe I overlooked it, unless it's that second sentence in condition 10, which says the planning director is authorized to waive these times based on special I was looking for something else. So it is in the second part of number 10. Yes, Commissioner Hauge.
All right, thank you.
It doesn't specifically say emergencies, but it says special circumstances.
Sean, why don't you come back up and then let us know if you can clarify if we captured what you were saying right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for the chance to respond. I forgot to add for the record that I am a customer of the Robinson Company and enjoy having them as a neighbor over there. And the biggest concern there was as we progress through the life of the contract, they're going to be going east directly toward the 284 Lozanos and mine at 330. So then the backup alarms and the hours of operation would be more noticeable as each phase of that is extended. Because right now that's blocked by the hillside. So as it comes down, if we can go till 7 o'clock at night, then we're going to be hearing the noise. I mean, we don't need to go into that machines running, backup alarms, or whatever it is. Even if it's just to prep for the next day, now we have to hear that every year as each piece is taken away. So other than that, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for that clarification. Right.
How many years will it take to get to that point? This is a 20-year application before they're close to the gentleman's home.
If you can see these triangular breaks, so first phase, so by years 17 through 20, that will be the final phase.
Have you had any filed complaints for noise or anything out there before?
Not that I'm aware of. As Mr. Ferreira said, they have acquired all the adjacent properties, so I'm not aware of any previous noise complaint, but I'll kind of look at the negative declaration as see if anything is there.
Seems like they're willing to work with the neighbors as the process goes along, and seems to be about 17 years before it's super close to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a question, or maybe a suggestion is that leave the operating hours as they are, but review the operating hours between 5 and 7 with each extension of those phases to determine if there's any issues. And then if necessary, as you get into 3 or 4, at that point in time, possibly restrict the hours. But because it's blocked right now, leave it as is and just have the staff review each time a new phase is opened up.
That's a good suggestion. I'll leave it to the commission to discuss, or a motion to include that. I think, Chris, is that reasonable or something that we are allowed to do, Clayton, too? Is that?
Yes, we can certainly include
Okay.
modification to the condition along those lines.
There are clear year delineations to where each phase opens. I think we're talking about the end of that range. So it'd be 4, 8. And then what's the next one? I can't read the third one.
It is cut off here on the graph.
Yeah, it's
It
probably
almost
12.
looks like
13.
the third phase cuts into the top of the hill and starts bringing it down. So
Be 8
it
to
looks
12.
like phase 1 and 2 are going to be shielded. It'd be the beginning of phase 3 that you may have an issue.
So are you saying that at the end or beginning of the third phase would be the recommendation, Commissioner Hauge?
Yes.
Okay, so probably the beginning of the third phase there, which looks like it might be year 9. I'm guessing, I can't see it, but it looks like that's where the next phase would start. And then perhaps year 13 again. Did I capture that right, Commissioner Howdy?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Sean, do you have a comment about that? Come up to the mic so that people online can hear you. I just really want to be conscious of the neighbors.
Yeah, no, understood. So am I to clarify though that there is no work to be done on the hill until that phase? Is that what this whole extension is clarifying? Because it already appears from the street level that some work is happening on the hill, and I just wanted to clarify that if this is approved and they go ahead, that the hill doesn't come down in the first phase. Is there going to be enforcement along the lines of each phase that they're only, or is this just a projected by the Robinson company that this is just their projections, or is there actual enforcement? Because to say that there's never been noise complaints, that hill's never been down, and they've never operated till 7. Well, if we give them approval and then they take the hill down the first phase and they are allowed to run till 7 o'clock, we're not really clarifying that that will be enforcement at those levels, you know?
Yeah, we'll find out.
Okay.
Come on up, Jan.
Ann Ferrer again, and in answer to Sean, one is I hope that he calls us if there's ever an issue that he would like to discuss, because we are more than willing to discuss anything going on down there. Sean, I don't know if you're understanding the phases that we come into the hill. We are coming in phases. They are projected phases. Yeah. It's not an exact science. But there is a shell being left, an outer board shell of the hill. So you're going to see a hill. You're going to have the buffer of that hill. Now, if it comes around the end of that, if you, depending on where your property line is, then obviously it might actually be our first phase that bothers you, because we're towards the end of that shell. We're at the front end of that shell. It's going to slope back. But that shell is there. The first phase may be the one if you're around that end of that, where the sound projects. But as we get into that shell, the sound should actually get more muffled because we're coming into that shell. Well, yes, on that side of it, and then the outer portion will be left. Understood. So, okay. But definitely a phone call would be appreciated, actually.
No one encouraged that.
So.
And just to explicitly answer the question, yes, there are check-ins along the way. There are grading permits issued prior to each phase. Could those lines get adjusted as they get into different materials? Sure. And so that is part of the annual check-in as well as the SMARA annual review.
Oh, great. Okay.
And that may, depending on the commission, that may or may not be the time on those annual or those phase grading permits when we look at these hours of operation.
From what it sounds like, since there's going to be review of the grading permits for each phase, that would be appropriate at that time to look at the noise also. It just becomes kind of a natural thing to do.
All right, commissioners, more discussion or a motion?
If there is interest in adding to that condition, I have drafted some language I can run by all of you.
Please.
I would note, though, that we may want to run this language by the project applicant to make sure they're okay with it as well. But the suggestion would be on condition of approval number 10, the one that lists the hours of operation, we would add a sentence at the end that states as follows. The planning director shall review hours of operation at each phase, comma, and has authority to require a 5 p.m. end time for certain phases if circumstances warrant, period.
I'm looking to commissioners first to see if that addresses what you expect.
It does, and thank you, Clayton.
Yeah, the only concern I have is, and it's probably not a significant concern, I guess, but as the applicant pointed out, this is not science, this is kind of art and science. So what those phases are is, you know, somewhat questionable here. So I guess I'm comfortable with that, or I wonder if a timed review makes more sense and is more precision to it. So in other words, if we said, hey, this gets reviewed in 4 years, you know, you leave that language there perhaps, I guess, but, or a review at 5-year point will be conducted, period dot. So we have something definitive. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I thought I heard Chris say that they review it annually and that they also review it when they come up for grading permits. So it's also timed and phased, unless I didn't hear that properly.
I think the appropriate time would be with each new grading permit required with each phase.
Okay.
I like that because it's more precise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask the applicant if what we're adding is reasonable.
We feel that the new, the timeframe you guys are talking about would be reasonable. We look at it every 5 years, as we need to get our new grading permit every 5 years.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
In light of that, I would just change the sentence slightly. So this would still be the last sentence added to condition of approval 10, but it would state, the planning director shall review hours of operation at the time of each grading permit application, comma, and has authority to require a 5:00 p.m. end time for certain phases if circumstances warrant, period.
All right, thank you, Clayton.
With that, I would make a motion to add that to condition 10.
Second.
We have a first and a second to add that. Can we get the recommendation on our screens here?
Yeah, I think Clayton's got to write it.
Yeah, I think is it in the back?
So the motion could be to add this to the condition number 10, and we'd take a vote on it, and then it would also need to be addressed in the second recommendation that the conditional use permit would be as modified. So a motion has been made, and then we would need second and vote.
I made the second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hagee, a second by Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Woodward,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Power,
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog.
Yes.
Thank you.
So staff's recommendation for the item number 1 would remain the same. The only modification needed would be to item 2. And the recommendation would be adopt the conditional use permit modification as modified.
Okay, I'm ready to make a motion then on this. I move that Planning Commission adopt the mitigating negative declaration, errata, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Robinson Mine conditional use permit modification attachment C, prepared pursuant to CEQA in accordance with the findings found in the staff report.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Let's do a roll call vote.
We have a first for Commissioner Woodward, a second for Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Woodward,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I further move that we approve the conditional use permit modification to expand the existing approved mining area by an additional 4.2 acres in the eastern portion of the mine site, and to extend the Robinson Newcastle gravel pit mining operation until January 2042, subject to the recommended conditions of approval at attachment B, and findings found in the staff report as modified.
Second.
First and second, do a roll call vote.
We have a motion for Commissioner Woodward, a second for Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Woodward,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog.
Yes.
Thank you.
There's one more. There is one more. Sorry. That's okay.
Further move that we approve the reclamation plan amendment, attachment D, in accordance with the Placer County Code, section 17.56.270 H2, authority for action on reclamation plans, and supported by the findings found in the staff report.
Second.
First and second, do a roll call vote.
A motion by Commissioner Woodward, a second by Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Woodward,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna take a
Appeal.
It is appealable. I'm going to read the appeal. So this decision of the Planning Commission may be appealed by anyone who appeared at today's hearing and provide a comment, or anyone that submitted written comments on this item. An appeal must be filed within 10 days of today's date and shall be accompanied by a filing fee of $688. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll start again at 11:07.
Okay.
I'm okay now. We press off for now, but if this goes long.
Okay, we're going to get started again. Please get organized here. We'll get started. We're going to move on to our second timed item, Placer Commerce Center General Plan Area Plan Amendment. Phased vesting, a tentative subdivision map, and master conditional use permit. Members of the public may now raise their hands. Press star 9 if you're calling in to begin queuing for public comment on this item, which will not begin until the item presentation is complete. Christopher Schmidt will be presenting on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Chris Schmidt, the Planning Services Division. The item before you today is an application from Buzz Oats Construction Incorporated for the Placer Commerce Center. The project is located in the Sunset area. It encompasses almost 400 acres. It's on the south side of Athens Avenue and the east and west sides of Foothill Boulevard North. A little closer up of the project site, currently vacant. To the north are some scattered industrial properties, also a habitat mitigation bank. To the northeast is the Thunder Valley Casino. To the immediate west is the Western Regional Sanitary Landfill. And to the east is Carvana down here, Ace Hardware, Industrial Avenue.
Carvana's to the left. That's not Carvana, that's the old pipe. Carvana is on any of your maps.
Oh,
showing
here.
current use.
Sorry.
Big pond, it's 10,000 car parking lot, this is false.
Infiniment Road is to the far west beyond the landfill. A few pictures of the project site, currently vacant, recently used for cattle grazing. This is Foothill Boulevard North. This is the Foothill Boulevard Athens intersection today. Land use designation in the area plan is a split land use designation of Innovation Center and also entertainment mixed use. To the west is a landfill. This is the Placer 1, previously Placer Ranch specific plan area, industrial uses over along Industrial Avenue, Business Park, mitigation area. Split zoning, as I mentioned, the western portion is Innovation Center special purpose. Patrick in the earlier project explained what special purpose means. It means there's a sensitive land use nearby that you need to pay attention to. And of course, that land use is the landfill property over here. And the balance of the site is entertainment mixed use, also special purpose. So the proposed project, just to orient you, north is to the right, so Athens here, Foothill Boulevard here. Just wanted to twist that so you can get a better look at the proposed site plan. So the draft master plan shows 18 buildings ranging from 162,000 square feet to a little over 1 million square feet. In total, up to 6.4 million square feet of flexible industrial space. Parking for 6,481 vehicles and 1,344 tractor trailers. Also proposes a new public road in the southeast corner of the site. This bird's eye view of the proposed project, the 1 million square foot buildings here, the smaller 160,000 square foot plus buildings over here. This is Athens and Foothills. So a few entitlements required. 2 general plan area plan amendments. The first to amend table 1-1 of the Sunset Area Plan, the implementing zoning regulations to allow for limited additional uses along Foothills Boulevard North in the entertainment mixed use zoning district. Also a change to modify the Sunset Area Plan corridor design standards and guidelines to reduce the ultimate width of Athens Avenue from Casino Garage driveway to Foothills Boulevard North from 6 lanes to 4 lanes with a center landscape median, and also to allow for a center 2-way left turn lane along the corridor where appropriate. Approval of master conditional use permit to allow the construction of a multi-building business park within the IC and the EMU zoning districts and within 1,000 feet of the landfill buffer. And also a phased vesting tentative subdivision map to create individual parcels as needed as the project develops. So the proposed project uses are mostly warehouse and industrial space, including research and development, e-commerce fulfillment, warehouse distribution, flex space, light industrial, and also manufacturing uses. The applicant has estimated the build-out will include about 5.1 million square feet of warehouse industrial use and 1.29 million square feet of R&D space. The buildings have been designed to be divisible into multiple tenant spaces. Upon completion, it's estimated that it will be between 3,500 and 5,000 employees on the site, depending on the end users. So the first area plan amendment is a change to the allowable land uses within the entertainment mixed use zone. So permitted uses in this zone include super regional shopping districts, large scale entertainment venues, indoor outdoor recreation amusement parks, lodging and recreational facilities. Also encourages mixed use residential and commercial development. So this area is designated to take advantage of the casino over here. The area plan does not allow industrial warehousing and distribution uses. So Buzz Oats is a multifaceted developer. They have done retail and strictly office development, but really their bailiwick is big box warehouse space. So with the area plan amendment, the following uses would be allowed in the EMU special purpose zoning district. Sorry, that's a mistake. So those new uses would be industrial subdivisions, manufacturing and assembly light, printing and publishing, research and development, and warehousing, wholesaling, and distribution. So we didn't want to make a change that impacted all the EMU zone property here, which includes tribal property south of Athens to the east. So to ensure that, we're limiting these uses to within 1,200 feet of Foothill Boulevard North. So it really only impacts the Buzz Oats property. So here's where we allow those new uses. And this is the uses that would be permitted in the project itself. So only these uses are allowed in the use permit. The uses normally allowed in entertainment mixed use includes that retail, hotels, et cetera, would not be permitted in this use permit. So if they wanted to come back and do something that's allowed in the area plan, not listed in this table, it would require a use permit modification. We did add an allowance for up to 20,000 square feet of recreation and fitness space, and also bar and restaurant use, just in case they get a tenant that wants to serve the employees on site, so they don't have to leave the property. So They are proposing a phased vested tentative subdivision map with 18 lots. Those lots range from 9.3 acres, which is this lot 16 on the east, up to 62.85 acres, which is a lot 11 in the southwest corner of the property. So the area plan and the general plan include language about a landfill buffer. So within 1,000 feet of the landfill property in the area plan, you do need approval of a specific plan, a master plan, or a development agreement. And in this case, it is a master plan. So the Placer Commerce Center master conditional use permit would allow for proposed commercial uses within this 1,000-foot landfill buffer. And the buffer is measured from the property line of the landfill property, which is the western boundary of the site. This landfill parcel is currently vacant, but could be used for future expansion of that landfill. And conditions have been included to minimize conflicts between the landfill property and the proposed project. CCR Title 27, which is California CalCycle regulations, has standards about development within the 1,000-foot buffer of a landfill. And those include a geomembrane or equivalent system with low permeability to landfill gas installed between the concrete floor slab of buildings and subgrade, venting pipes constructed with the ability to be connected to an induced draft exhaust system, and also installation of automatic methane gas sensors. The developer or tenant is also required to hire a qualified specialist to conduct periodic methane gas monitoring inside all buildings and underground utilities and submit results to the County Environmental Health Division. So the project has been designed with flexibility. It would be developed in multiple phases based on tenant demand. Estimated build-out is about 20 years. For analysis purpose, they broke it into 4 phases, starting in the southwest corner with the 2 large buildings and moving north, and then eventually to the east to phase 4. So the master plan design guidelines document was prepared. It provides the planning framework, establishes development character for Placer Commerce Center. The guidelines direct build out of the site so that it operates as a functional, cohesive project when complete. The document would be adopted by reference in the project's conditions of approval. These are the items that the master plan design guidelines address. It looks at all the physical features in development properties, including aesthetics, landscaping, signage, etc. 3 different building types are proposed, a clean, modern, corporate look. Development standards are not changed from what's allowed in the area plan. The buildings proposed, however, range in height from 24 to 46 feet. Decorative elements on the largest building extend up to 61 feet. And just for reference, the height limit in the EMU zone is 100 feet and 150 feet in the Innovation Center zone, so well under what is allowed. A signage program will be prepared. It's required in the Sunset Area Plan, so all future tenant signs will be reviewed for consistency with the plan and also the design guidelines, including maximum size and location. Parking on site, which I mentioned, 6,400 vehicles. Required is 4,200, so they're showing over parking. Also 1,344 tractor trailers. And it should be noted that 12% of the parking spaces will be dedicated parking for shared or alternative fuel vehicles, and 8% of those spaces will have charging equipment installed, and that's an area plan requirement. They did prepare a draft landscape plan with 19.5% of the site shown as being landscaped, a minimum of 30 feet of landscape, and is proposed adjacent to both Athens Avenue and Foothills Boulevard North, meaning area plan standards. They'll also be installing 50 feet of landscaping along the future Placer Parkway corridor, and also within the medians of both Athens and Foothills Boulevard North, and providing a landscape buffer to the west to the landfill property. So as you can guess, 6 million square feet of space does create a bit of traffic. Includes about 2,100 trips in the AM and PM peak hours. In total, 22,400 daily trips, including 1,896 daily truck trips. So the project's vehicles miles traveled was assessed based on the change in vehicles mile traveled service population for the Sunset Area Plan. So when the area plan was adopted, we looked at VMT. And we wanted to look at what this project does to that overall area plan VMT. So with the change in the uses allowed in the EMU zone on the Oates property, it results in a reduction of heavy traffic uses that are allowed on much of the project site, and VMT levels are actually reduced based on what is proposed versus what could be built here or what was analyzed in the Sunset Area Plan. And that reduction is 1.87 daily VMT service population reduction. And that equates to about 3% area plan reduction in VMT. But while the VMT per capita levels are improved, build out of the Sunset Area Plan still exceeds applicable thresholds of significance, and the previous finding in the area plan EIR of significant unavoidable is unchanged. So access to the property will be from both Athens and Foothills. 3 signalized intersections are proposed, the Athens Foothills, and also 2 main driveways east and west into the project site. Along Athens Avenue, we'll be restricting no left-out turns, but full access otherwise. The new public street I mentioned is here. This serves the Placer Ranch properties to the south and also the EMU property to the east that's currently vacant. And an EVA is required in phase 1 if this develops as the first phase until there's a second access to Foothills. So the EVA is here, the driveway is here. So this brings us to our second change in the area plan. So a roadway sizing analysis was conducted. Both Athens Avenue and Foothills Boulevard were modeled under ultimate build-out conditions to provide the correct design for roadway sizing with this project. It was determined that Athens Avenue east and west of Foothills Boulevard North could be accommodated as a 4-lane roadway. And that's because we're taking away those heavy EMU uses from this project site. So the section of Athens Avenue west of Industrial serving access to Thunder Valley Casino could continue to be accommodated as a 6-lane roadway, which it is today. The Sunset Area Plan called for a full 6 lanes between Industrial on the east to Foothills Boulevard North. So the amendment would reduce the required width of Athens Avenue from the Casino Garage driveway to Foothills Boulevard North from 6 lanes to 4 lanes with a landscape median. This image below shows you what would be constructed. And then also to provide flexibility to the ultimate improvement of Athens Avenue from Foothills Boulevard North past the landfill to Fittyment Road. Language is proposed to either permit a 2-way turn lane, center turn lane, or a landscape median along this segment. The water and sewer, water is available through PCWA. There's a current 18-inch line within Athens Avenue, which would serve this project. Ultimately, the developer will need to extend that 18-inch line down Foothills. And then full build out of the area plan will require water service. There's a trunk line that terminates in the Whitney Ranch area of Rockland. That would be extended east or west into the specific plan area with Placer Parkway construction. And for sewer, this project will connect to Roseville. The county is investing money into a trunk sewer from the casino down into Roseville that will connect to the Pleasant Grove treatment plant. That'll be a 24-inch line. There is some off-site work required, so the road transitions where streets are widening along the project frontages would taper to a narrower existing road with off-site. So the Placer Ranch project is expected to undertake some of the infrastructure needed by both projects, mainly the sewer system. This includes lift stations in the Force Main and Foothills Boulevard North that connect to the Pleasant Grove plant in the city of Roseville. In the event that Placer Ranch does not start construction of that sewer line, the Buzz Oats applicant would need to construct that sewer connection to serve their project. So we did do a habitat assessment of the project site. This looks at both the on-site impacts and also potential off-site impacts. Looked at the widening of Athens in the future down here for the sewer line connection to the south. So on-site is predominantly vernal pool complex, low, intermediate, and high, and that's a PCCP term. So vernal pool plus grassland. There are some wetlands on site. Total on and off site is 9.36 acres of wetlands, and it's scattered here. You see it on the northern edge of the site. On site total 7.33 acres of wetlands. There's also a floodplain area in the northeast corner of the property. 3.5 acres of that extend onto the project site. And the applicant will be avoiding that completely. So the buildings are designed around that floodplain area. Mitigation is required. It's a covered activity under the PCCP, subject to applicable PCCP state and federal permits and impact fees. The special habitat fees would apply to the project to mitigate impacts to non-vernal seasonal wetlands. And the project would be required to apply for CARP authorizations for your wetland impacts. The applicant may also dedicate land in lieu of paying that fee, or all or part of the mitigation fee requirement. So with a bunch of impervious surface, there's a stormwater management program in place. All stormwater from impervious surfaces, including roofs and paving, would be routed through specially designed water quality detention and treatment basins throughout the site. For larger storm events that exceed the volumes that can be accommodated on site by bioretention facilities, stormwater is conveyed downstream within the Pleasant Grove Creek and Orchard Creek watersheds. To address these impacts, the project may obtain off-site retention volume credits if they don't contain it all on site. And these projects are being implemented by both the city of Roseville and also the city of Lincoln. The project is required to pay a lengthy list of fees, including annexation for coverage for fire protection services, the countywide capital facility fee, South Placer Regional Transportation and Air Quality fees, Highway 65 fees, traffic impact fees for the county, also City of Roseville, Rockland, Lincoln traffic fees. There's a sewer connection fair share fee, and then a transit services fee. The county did undertake an environmental review. There was an EIR prepared for both the Sunset Area Plan and the Placer Ranch Specific Plan. The Sunset Area Plan was done on a programmatic level. The Placer Ranch Specific Plan was done on a project level. Feasible mitigation measures from this document were incorporated into approved mitigation monitoring and reporting program. And all those mitigation measures are applied to future projects within the area. The county as lead agency determined that the Placer Commerce Center proposal did require the preparation of an addendum to that EIR due to the requested Sunset Area Plan amendments. So the purpose of this addendum and checklist is to characterize and compare the Placer Commerce Center project's consistency with the Sunset Area Plan Placer Ranch EIR and to evaluate any inconsistencies. That evaluation included the following: included site and project specific cultural resources, air quality, habitat, and other assessments, an analysis of traffic impacts resulting from the proposed land use change in the EMU district, and also an analysis of the proposed width reduction of Athens Boulevard from 6 lanes to 4. Based on this analysis, the county determined that, or concluded that the proposed project did not result in any new significant impacts not previously disclosed in the EIR, nor would it result in a substantial increase in the magnitude of any significant environmental impact previously identified in that EIR. Although minor technical changes or additions are necessary to the previous certified EIR, none of the conditions described in CEQA guidelines sections 15-162 are met, which would require further analysis or preparation of a new EIR. The recommended and feasible mitigation measures from the adopted final EIR for Sunset and Placer Ranch have been included as conditions of approval. Which brings us to staff recommendation. Staff recommends you take action to recommend the following to the Board of Supervisors. Recommend the board adopt the addendum, which is attachment H of the staff report package, to the 2019 Sunset Area Plan Placer Ranch Specific Plan EIR prepared pursuant to CEQA. Recommend the board also adopt a resolution to amend the Sunset Area Plan corridor design standards and guidelines to reduce the ultimate width of Athens Avenue from Casino Garage Drive to Foothills Boulevard North from 6 lanes to 4 lanes with a center landscape median, and also to allow for a center two-way left turn lane along the corridor where appropriate, as shown in attachment F of the staff report. Staff also recommends that you recommend the board adopt an ordinance to allow for limited additional uses along Foothills Boulevard North in the entertainment mixed-use zoning district, as shown in attachment G of the staff report. Also recommend the board approve the Placer Commerce Center phase vesting intended subdivision map, which is attachment C, subject to the findings and proposed conditions of approval found in the staff report packet, which is attachment I. And also recommend the board approve the master conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a multi-building business park within the IC and EMU zoning districts and within the 1,000-foot landfill buffer, subject to the findings and proposed conditions of approval found in the staff report packet, which is attachment I. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Dahlgren, do you have any questions?
I had one question. I think it's on recommendation 2. What was the thought process behind the reduction of Athens Avenue from 6 to 4 lanes?
This was based on a traffic analysis where the question was asked, if we reduce these heavy traffic generating uses out of EMU, so entertainment center, hotels, shopping centers, do we really need a full 6 lanes along this length? And the analysis showed we do not. So we're asking for the reduction to go down to 4 lanes on that stretch. So it's
Thank you.
It's from the casino parking ramp driveway to Foothills Boulevard North. No longer 6 lanes, would be 4 lanes with a center median.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, a question. I noticed the one travel lane is 12 foot in width and the other is 11. Why the difference in width?
I have my public works folks here, but I believe that the center lane is usually wider just to provide a little more buffer so a car doesn't stray too far and hit the median. But I'll punt to them.
I saw some nodding in the back, so it looks like you nailed that one, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a good guess.
Mr. Powers, anything?
Yeah, a couple of questions for public record. I did correspond with Chris on this yesterday. Chris, can you help me understand what distinguishes a master CUP from a standard CUP? In other words, what authority goes along with what we're calling a master CUP now?
So for a phase project, we want a master plan document that shows what future phases must comply to. So it does provide flexibility. The master plan, which is mentioned in the Sunset Area Plan, there's not a definition for what a master plan is in county code. So what we're tying it to is the conditions of approval and the master plan prepared by the applicant team, showing what ultimate build out and what this project would look like at the end of the day.
Okay, so it's just kind of an administrative term, I suppose, then?
It is.
Okay. I'm, obviously wasn't here when this original plan went through. What was the original vision for this area? And the reason I ask that is after we talked, we got a Defend Granite Bay letter, which talks about a reduction of 114 single-family, 408 multifamily dwelling units. Is this a violation of SB 10, et cetera? Are you familiar with that letter?
Yes.
So can you answer that question for me?
Yeah. So the original intent for at least for the EMU zone district was to build off what the tribe has established over here, a regional entertainment destination. So allow things that could build on that foot traffic. So large amusement park, cineplexes, hotels, but also mixed use development. So when the area plan was prepared and then analyzed, mostly for air quality impacts and also traffic, there were assumptions assigned to that acreage of each of the zoning districts. So for this parcel, it did mention theoretically this could accommodate, I'm making up the numbers, but they're in the staff report, 2 million square feet of industrial or commercial space, X amount of retail space, but it also mentioned housing units. So those were just assumptions from staff and the consultants to kind of model what would be happening out here if it built out as we had thought it would. So we're not really taking away units assigned to this per se. The plan doesn't say you must build X amount of housing units on this property. It says they could potentially be built here, and what does that look like from a traffic or air quality impact? So the vision for EMU was mixed use, regional draw, build off the casino. The innovation center was what we're seeing here today, warehouse distribution, e-commerce, corporate campuses, that type of use is what we wanted to see over here.
Okay, so staff's perspective is that SB 10 doesn't apply in this case.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I can just add to that. I was a little unclear with the reference to SB 10. There's a lot in SB 10,
yeah.
But there are there are some notes in there about reducing density to parcels, and I thought that may be where the comment is focused on. There is no reduction to the density of this parcel. The density remains the same. And to the extent this was a question about those no net loss concerns that we'd been raised before, that no net loss law applies to housing that's identified in the regional housing needs assessment. These units would not be identified in there, so it's not, I guess, we're not removing units from something that was designated as part of our housing stock.
Okay. Final quick question. It was an excellent presentation, obviously, and an excellent staff package as usual. We don't address 65 traffic at all here. So we had, it was a great discussion, and in fact, two of my colleagues already addressed kind of lane questions and those things, but all of the discussion in the staff package is located really within like 2 miles of this site. And yet, I don't know, but my guess would be if we turned the camera on 65 right now, it would be gridlock. And it is gridlock from 6 in the morning to 9 in the morning pretty much every day. And it's gridlock from 4 to 6 every day. So you didn't see any impacts whatsoever on 65, or was this part of your analysis at all in that traffic study that you cited?
So when the area plan was adopted, it looked at the big picture. What does development within Sunset and the Plaza Ranch properties do to regional traffic? So there were mitigation measures. It's mostly, collect fees, et cetera, and also pay fees to the cities for the impact of development within this area. So this project itself had two analyses. It had the VMT analysis and then a localized transportation impact analysis, and basically looked at, do the intersections and the roads have enough capacity for what you're proposing to do out here? And the answer was yes. The big picture question about what all this growth does to 65 is all addressed in the previous EIR. Yeah. And VMT is now the CEQA metrics, and it's significant and unavoidable. It's just,
yeah, okay.
It's a large impact.
And I thought that would be your answer. My only comment is, we're now talking about really a change in complexion here in terms of traffic. If you're talking about a community, that's one thing. If you're talking about a warehouse, it's an entirely different thing. So now you're injecting a lot of trucks into this equation as opposed to, homes and that sort of thing. So whether this was addressed or not, there is certainly going to be a fundamental difference in traffic here on 65 based on what we now know is the actual vision for these parcels. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So obviously additional semi-tractor trailer traffic, yes. Overall, due to the less intensive use, even though these are large industrial facilities, VMT does decline. So 3% reduction in the overall area plan impacts.
Okay.
But
VMT, I got it.
As we know,
Great.
65
That's
is quite
VMT.
congested today.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I'd like to take a moment to invite someone from Buzz Oats Construction if you have anything to share.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Sheridan Evans. I'm a development manager for Buzz Oats Construction. I'm also the manager in charge of the Placer Commerce Center. And so I would just first like to start off thanking the Placer County staff for getting us here, in what feels like record time. And also would like to thank the Commission for meeting today as well. So first, who is Buzz Oats, right? We're based out of Sacramento. We're currently located downtown Sacramento. We've been in the region for the past 75 years, give or take. We're a vertically integrated real estate company. So what that means is we purchase raw land, we entitle it, we develop it, and we also hold it and lease it to different users in the local economy, regional or national users. And so under that business model, we have to have a long-term partnership with any jurisdiction that we go into. You know, we've been in the city of Lincoln for quite some time, Sacramento City, Sacramento County, and now we're coming to Placer County. So as Chris had mentioned, our project is located within the Sunset Area Plan. We are adjacent to the Western Placer Waste Management Authority facility. And we are also at the intersection of Athens and North Foothills Boulevard. And so looking at this project, you know, we took a look at the Sunset Area Plan, which was formerly the Sunset Industrial Area, and also the Placer Ranch specific plan. And we wanted to align our project with those objectives that were outlined in those plans. And so the first and foremost objective is our implementation of the Sunset Area Plan. In doing that, we have to provide a balanced land use mix of innovation center and also entertainment mixed use. And so, you know, our industrial warehouse, manufacturing, light industrial, and also our research and development really have a mix. It'll mix in properly with what the landfill is doing to our west, and also what Placer One is doing in the Sacramento State Expansion Campus. Okay, and also we wanted to ensure that, you know, we bring in an employment center, as Chris had mentioned. You know, we're looking at 3,500 to 5,000, you know, primary wage jobs in this area. And I know there's a long list here, but just to cut it down, jurisdictions now we're seeing, you know, they want to create a community that's walkable, cyclable, and has adequate public transportation. And we took that into account with the Complete Streets model. I believe there was a comment on our streets, and Chris is correct that the inner lane is typically wider to accommodate that traffic. And lastly, that I want to go through is we want to facilitate development within the circular economy. I know that's a new term that goes out there. But essentially, the WAPMA facility, the CSU expansion campus, and also Placer One, they all essentially complement each other, right? Sometime last year, we took a tour of the materials reclamation facility at the landfill. We love what they're doing, and we want to have our uses complement what they're doing in order to reduce emissions, reduce pollution going into, or reduce refuse going into the landfill. And so what I'm attempting to demonstrate here is that we took into account all of the different uses around our project in the area, and we essentially proposed the Placer Commerce Center. So our goal is by the first quarter 2023, we hope to have park-wide entitlements in place, and then that'll allow us to go into our off-site infrastructure, which is our roadway expansions, our sewer improvements, water improvements, et cetera, and then shift into beginning our on-site infrastructure at the end of quarter 3, 2023, and then going into phase 1, quarter 1, 2024. And so the question came up internally was, you know, how do we know that there's the demand here in Placer for this, product, right? The question was raised earlier by the commissioner was, how do we, or what started the shift from entertainment mixed use to interjecting the additional research and development, light industrial manufacturing uses? And so we took a look at the entire market, the Sacramento area, South Placer, and also Placer County, and we found that there is quite some demand out here for this product. And so long story short, this project here has the potential to capture a large portion of existing demand and also future demand within this region. And I briefly went over the benefits to the circular economy earlier, but just to reiterate, our prospective tenants would be regional, nationwide users with an emphasis on logistics, light manufacturing, and research and development. And that image that you're seeing in the backdrop there is the general produce facility that we just opened in Sacramento. And so looking down, 20,000 feet, big picture, our project, we hope to be a regional catalyst. We understand that the Sunset Area Plan evolved from the Sunset Industrial Plan, and that plan had been in the making for 30 to 40 years. And so we wanted to use our project as a catalyst to start off all of these other developments in the area, the backbone infrastructure included. And here are just some 3D renderings of our proposed facilities. As you can see, they're all very modern facilities. They look great, a lot of landscaping, in my opinion. As was included in the staff report, there are roadway improvements. We took a look with our VMT analysis, our local access study, local transportation studies, and we determined that this would be these improvements here, as you can see, going north-south. That blue line there is our Foothills Boulevard ultimate build-out of that arterial road, and then the yellow line there on the top is the Athens Avenue expansions. Those blue dots are our site access points, and then the green line there on the south is the proposed public road. We also included buffered bike lanes into the street design, and also bus stops as well. And these exhibits here show our planned backbone infrastructure. The green is the sewer trunk line, and the blue is the potable water line. In short, we're looking at about $14.5 million investment, including annexation and connection fees as well. These exhibits show the recycled water and also the storm drainage infrastructure to be installed as well. The purple is the recycled water, and the red is the storm drainage. Now, big picture and connecting back to the Sunset Area Plan's EIR, we took a look at our air quality emissions in our addendum, and we determined that, or the determination was made that essentially our reduced uses would result in a 68% reduction of air pollutants. This essentially, our metric tons of carbon dioxide is reduced by 42% from what was analyzed in the Sunset Area Plan's EIR. And as Chris had mentioned, our VMT footprint was reduced by 3% as well. On site, our biological surveys, we determined that there was no special status plants on site, and our wetlands and stream system impacts will be reduced via the participation in the PCCP and the CARP program. So in short, there were no significant impacts determined. So are there any questions for the applicant team or regarding to the project?
Yeah, thank you. Excellent presentation. And you cleared up a lot of things. So I wish other applicants would follow your footsteps in how to present to the commission. Good job.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite my online commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Dahlgren. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
I don't. I thought that was very thorough. Thank you.
Commissioner Hauge,
No, I have no further questions.
any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. First of all, I'll start with an apology. You offered me an opportunity to speak with you prior to this commission meeting, and generally speaking, I try to do that for people. No interest in surprising people at the podium, so, but I just couldn't get it done. So My apologies for that. Just a couple of quick questions here. The first is, you made the comment that this is a walkable and cyclable proposal. So you're talking really about the internal area, right? I mean, people are going to drive here, right? They're going to drive, park, and then maybe bike in the area from one facility to another. Is that what you're really saying?
Yes, that is included. So we do have extensive internal circulation. We also have open spaces for employees. But what I was referring to is our actual bike lanes on our roadways. And also, we implemented meandering sidewalks to improve, community uses on Athens Avenue. But you are correct that common sense would tell you that people aren't really going to bike to an industrial facility next to a landfill.
Yeah.
Where there really isn't a large amount of neighboring residences.
Yeah, a small point, obviously, but what I'm trying to kind of get my mind around is what we're really doing to traffic flow outside of Athens Avenue, which I think is frankly kind of significant here. I also recognize this is a 2019 project, it's already been approved, so, this horse has left the gate, and that's fine, and I certainly support efforts here to build employment in the area and that sort of thing. You guys are doing great work. I'm curious about this business model just a little bit, though, too. And this actually ties into traffic and the complexion of traffic on 65 again. Having spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C., I can tell you there are roads there that make 65 look like a superhighway. But in the future, I don't think that's going to be the case. And so putting a lot of trucking in here is going to be really interesting, I think, for 65. So what is interesting to me is that this large warehousing project, you have no railhead in the area. Is that true?
Can you repeat that?
You have no railhead in the area. Is that a true statement?
That's true.
Okay, and there's no airport in the area that would facilitate air cargo transport into this warehousing center. Is that accurate as well?
Yes, practically all of our truck traffic would go up foothills from the connection to the planned Placer Parkway. And just for the record, we are also involved in the Placer Parkway engineering discussions as well. I believe there was, we just had a call with the Placer Parkway's engineering team a few days ago to go over the design and how our project connects to that. Because long term, not only does our Foothills Boulevard connect to our roadway, but also our backbone sewer would connect to Placer Parkway, and also our future water connection would connect to Placer Parkway. So we are ultimately invested in the Placer Parkway connection.
Right, okay. But everything, generally speaking, your vision right now, Annie, would be that everything that feeds what are millions of square feet of warehousing, principally, will come up 65. I mean, that is the artery that we're talking about here, right?
Yes, via the Placer Parkway connection, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to open up public comment, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone here in person wish to speak in public?
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Michelle Kingsbury from the Community Development Resource Agency. I just wanted to clarify a couple points in regards to the rail spur. There is a rail spur that is in the Sunset area where the former Formica plant is. That's not too far from this site as well. In addition to that, when we originally did the 2019 Sunset Area Plan update, the vision was to try and capture a lot of the traffic that would have otherwise gone to Sacramento for jobs and kind of build the job base here. So just wanted to make sure I mentioned that to tie back to your questions related to traffic along 65. It really was envisioned to try and bring those kind of job centers and job uses kind of to Placer County to mitigate folks that would otherwise travel down to Sacramento for those types of jobs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's like Mr. Garabedian. It's public comment.
Thank you, Mike Garabedian, Placer County Tomorrow. I'll try to zip through some points here. We have a very capable staff, but there's no way anybody can keep up with all the development going on here. So why wouldn't warehousing and this organization want to come here? I mean, they're being handed, the whole area is full of vernal pools everywhere. And they're being handled a project where they couldn't probably do anywhere else except Placer County, with the PCCP is a disaster. It doesn't, the state law requires landscape level ecosystem protection. We're getting landscape level ecosystem destruction. Well, so having a presentation that doesn't show where Carvana is and its 10,000 lot structure suggests that there must be some staff here who understand what's going on, and instead of having a false map like those in the report and the false I imagine that they've found out it's there. The good questions about. So yeah, the vernal pool complex, the low vernal pool, that's rounded out to about 400 acres impacted by this, and then the intermediate between 20 to 30 or so. There's a lot of destruction here. The truck traffic, I'm glad that's been raised. It's a serious problem. But like I said, how can an applicant resist? They're being told to rely on old studies and EIRs. There's no active engagement of the public. Rare in this. There was a lawsuit, but it was settled for lots of money. This is a backwater of planning, as I've said before to you. Your standards here are so lower than everything else. Does an outfit like this want to participate in this? Obviously they do, because there's a lot to be gained here. So that's 1 minute left. Well, there's no way I can even begin to cover what needs to be discussed about this. I'll try to address it as best I can in some comments, but the overall picture is one of an area that is going to be, without any question, a traffic nightmare, even if 65 is widened as planned, and if the parkway is built all the way through to 99, it's going to become just on its own a national cross-country traffic for trucking through to 99 and north. It's going to be bad enough to have it centered here. To have to place this where it is and not show where Taylor Morrison is now building to the south, where I don't know why it doesn't show where the CSUS campus is proposed right below this. I don't know why there hasn't been any discussion about how the former, this is my last sentence, formerly, before the plan was revised, there was a buffer around the land, and they reduced the buffer significantly. So anyway, that's just an opening comment. I hope I can, say more. I hope you will do your job and make sure that you come back at continue this hearing so you can see an accurate map of what's there now, and have staff who knows the area where they've destroyed a 6-acre federal wetland, the 12-acre marsh that is under Carvana, the 2/10 of a mile, 1/5 of a mile long Carvana reconditioning facility. It's going to serve Oregon, Washington, Northern California, major. This whole area is in big trouble, and all I can say is, at this moment, is good luck. You've really got a big job to do. You have to sink your teeth into this seriously. Thank you.
All right. Any other public comments?
I guess it's officially afternoon. Commission, I'm Janine Winneshausen, Placer County Treasurer Tax Collector. As you may know, it's extremely rare for me to speak to the Commission on a project, but I feel compelled to do so after being familiar with the Sunset area for over 35 years. I have worked on various analysis, evaluations, and such of the financing of infrastructure out in that area. While the activity of this project in the last year might seem rapid, the fact of the matter is that the visioning, the planning, and consideration out in the Sunset area has been going on for decades. And what I would view is before us is a fantastic opportunity for economic development in the southwestern portion of the county. In my experience over the last 35 years, I have not seen the synergy that I am seeing out in this area for what was ultimately envisioned as the creation of being outside of Placer, and Placer being merely a bedroom community, but being an economic engine and vitality in and of itself. And with the projects that are in the planning stages and moving towards implementation, such as this project, Placer One, synergy with the United Auburn Indian Tribe, and with the Waste Management Authority. For the last 5 years, I've been on a visioning committee for the Waste Management Authority. And when we talk about a circular economy, I like to refer to it as an economic ecosystem where the businesses and the occupants of that area are working together to optimize and capture the economics of the area using products out of the landfill as source materials for the businesses that are operating out there. Again, creating primary wage earner jobs for citizens in Placer County so that they don't have to commute out. Synergy with the university for research and development with the businesses that are going on out there, and also with the landfill authority to solve problems out there and to optimize the resources out of that landfill. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I think this is one is a component piece of one of the biggest economic development opportunities that Placer County has seen in decades. Thank you.
Ma'am, what's your position again?
I'm County Treasurer Tax Collector.
Okay,
I say that by way of disclosure, but I am speaking on behalf of myself.
Right.
I do have an official role here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, commissioners online, Marcus LaDuca, I'm Land Use Counsel for Buzzards Enterprises. I just want to touch on a couple items that were brought up. Obviously, as Commissioner Woodward has expressed, there's concern over State Route 65. That was, fully analyzed in the Sunset Area Plan EIR, of which there's an addendum before you. But really, one of the foresight of the county and its participating cities was to look through the South Placer Regional Transportation Authority to have Placer Parkway approved, received its federal approvals, and start getting that built. And a couple months ago, you had the first phase of that financed, obviously through the generosity and the work with the United Auburn Indian community. But this is not a project that's going to build out in 2 years. This is a 20-year build out. Placer Parkway, as it gets built, its segments will be getting built along the way, and that is to try to address that very issue that General Woodward mentioned, which was impacts to Highway 65. The idea of Placer Parkway was to pull the trips off of 65, so leaving that more to residents and people visiting commercial establishments, and get more of the industrial and manufacturing trips over to I-5 in the west. So looking at it from a transportation perspective, long range, not assuming that you're going to have 6.4 million square feet dumped on the market in a year or two, I think as you look at the transportation planning, Placer County is ahead of just about every county in the state relative to that long range type of planning. As to the PCCP, the Sunset Area Plan is part of the growth area anticipated under the PCCP, and it sets forth a rather extensive process to be able to mitigate impacts, which it will. But I did want to emphasize one thing, and it goes along with what Janine Windishausen just said. Other than the NEC project that was first came forward in 1984 in Placer County, if you present valued that investment there, the over $1 billion of private investment in this project will be the second largest private sector investment in Placer County's 172-year history. This is for those of us who have been involved in the Sunset Area Plan since, first the Sunset Industrial Area Plan, when it first started coming forward in the early 90s. This is what the county's been waiting for, is this type of project. Because of infrastructure challenges, particularly sewer, projects like this couldn't come forward. I've represented parties in Sunset area literally since the early 90s. And there was always major infrastructure obstacles that were faced that they just couldn't overcome. This is all this coming to fashion. Other parts of the state and this country would love to have a project like this come to be able to bring this type of investment and this type of company that is invested in the community throughout the region to come forward with the project that you have before you, recognizing that it will be paying its fair share. We estimate its total fees that will be paid on this project of upwards of $100 million in fees, from transportation to sewer to water. Significant funding sources for improvements, public improvements to serve all of Sunset area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other public comments here in person? Do we have any online?
Yes, we have 2 people. Matt Ivy, you have 3 minutes to speak.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Matt Ivy. I'm with New Inspiration Broadcasting, who has a 6-tower AM radio array to the east of Foothills Boulevard North, which actually is not on any maps that were in the presentation. We're just concerned a little bit about the buildings in Phase 4, the southwest corner, Building 16, butting up against the end of our property line there, and then also the addition of that street at the bottom of Phase 4 that would potentially maybe go across the bottom of our property line. We have ground radials that are buried in the ground that if those are affected or disturbed in any way would affect our ability in broadcasting and would require us to get special approval from the FCC and all of that to broadcast out of tolerance. And then any modification to Athens Avenue could be potentially affect us if any of the power lines are moved. I didn't see any discussion about that, but I just wanted to get that on the record that could potentially affect us as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
P. Bennett, you have 3 minutes to speak. P. Bennett, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself on your side?
Okay, I'm sorry. I was talking for a minute there. Okay, my name is Perry Bennett. I'm plant manager at Rio Bravo Rockland, which is a biomass power plant to the directly to the east of this project. And I guess just I had a couple questions, concerns. One was there's been a lot of discussion about the traffic on 65, and I know there's improvements to Athens, but to get from Athens to 65, there is a roadway industrial that I'm just wondering what kind of commitment the county is willing to make to maybe improvements to that roadway. It's just kind of it's a narrow roadway, and I could see it becoming a shortcut from this project 265, and it's already kind of overtaxed as it is, and just wondering how much commitment the county is willing to make to that. The other was just the infrastructure. I'm sure that the county has considered all of the increased sewer and the taxing on the water system. We rely heavily on water at our project, and at times in the summer, we've had where the water pressure goes, it's impacted, it's low, and just kind of curious of what the county has, what considerations they've made for those resources, just to make sure that they're going to be able to keep up with the additional taxing on the system. But that was all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is anyone else?
No, we have no other online.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment. And Chris, you want to come up and address some of those items?
I'd be happy to. Comment about walkability and cyclability. Placer Ranch is developing probably less than a quarter mile is their first residential units south of the site. So there is residential development happening nearby. It's not far-fetched to think someone could bicycle from the cities of Rockland or Lincoln to the east and also the north. So there are the regional transportation networks with the bikeways and bike lanes proposed and nearby residential. So it's not impossible. Apologize for the old aerial not showing Carvana. Wetland impacts, though it's a beautiful site when it's green, there are only 7.3 acres of wetlands on the site. Total project, if they had to do all the improvements off-site with the sewer line, just 9.36 acres of wetlands. I will note there's not even a tree on the property, so my second project in a year with no trees on site. The towers to the east that Matt talked about are out in this area. There's no construction. Actually, it's right here. There's no construction planned on those parcels. Power lines on Athens, they will be undergrounding the power lines along the project frontage. No change in the balance of that stretch of Athens. Industrial Boulevard, long-term plan is to go to 4 lanes. And the water impacts, it's acknowledged from PCWA that eventually that water main from the Whitney Ranch area will need to extend into this area of the county, and that happens with the first phase of Placer Parkway.
Okay, thank you. Also want to invite the applicant back up to address anything if you like. If you're happy with what was done, that's fine too. Give you opportunity. Okay. Commissioners, if we have more questions for clarification or discussion, this is that time.
I just have comments, Mr. Chair. And mostly, I would say what Janine said, we followed parallel careers, her in the public sector and me in the private sector, and have followed this process, this Sunset Industrial Park, and the vision to get it to where it is today. So without giving a half-hour speech, I just want to say I agree with everything that Janine had said, and I'm in support of this project. And I would say for our broadcasting, Mr. Matt Ivy, I'm sure that the applicants will do whatever they can to make sure that he's still up and running so that he can do his broadcasting. With regard to Athens Road having improvements for Mr. Ivy, I would just get in touch with, our CEDRA department and make sure they're well aware of what you have going on for the future. But this has been decades coming. We, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we supported the campus Placer Parkway is on its way. I sat on the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency where we had future and a vision for Highway 65 and the widening, and it began with the Highway 80 interchange, and there's all the way into Lincoln, things planned. And as always, we just need money. And without developers developing projects, we hope for our federal and state funding and granting, but they're going to help kickstart getting our Placer Parkway going and our Highway 65 improvements. So I support this project and thank you for a good report. So if you're ready, I'll start this long recommendation.
I'm not hearing any other comments, so we'll welcome a motion.
All right, you're going to have to listen to me for a little while. I'll recommend that the board adopt the addendum attachment H to the 2019 Sunset Area Plan, Placer Ranch Specific Plan, EIR, prepared pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. And council, do we need to do each one separately? Are there any that can go together? Okay, all right, no problem.
Second.
First and a second, let's do a roll call vote.
We have a first by Commissioner Powers, a second by Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll continue to recommend the board adopt a resolution to amend the Sunset Area Plan Corridor Design Standards and Guidelines to reduce the ultimate width of Athens Avenue from Casino Garage Drive to Foothills Boulevard North from 6 lanes to 4 lanes with the center landscape median, and to allow for a center 2-way left turn lane along the corridor where appropriate, as shown in attachment F of the staff report.
Second.
First and a second, do a roll call vote.
We have a first, Commissioner Powers, a second by Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll further recommend the board adopt an ordinance to allow for limited additional uses along Foothills Boulevard North in the entertainment mixed-use zoning district as shown in attachment G of the staff report.
Second.
First and a second, do a roll call vote.
We have a first for Commissioner Powers, a second by Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll recommend the board approve the Placer Commerce Center phased vesting tentative subdivision map attachment C, subject to the findings and proposed conditions of approval found in the staff report packet attachment I.
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote.
We have a first by Commissioner Powers, a second by Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
And I'll further recommend the board approve the master conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a multi-building business park within the IC and EMU zoning districts and within the 1,000-foot landfill buffer, subject to the findings and proposed conditions of approval found in the staff report packet attachment I.
Second.
First and a second, we'll do a roll call vote.
We have a first for Commissioner Powers, a second by Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagee?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to make a note, this is not appealable. It's a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, and that concludes our meeting. Thank you, everyone.